Although Israel emerged victorious in the First Arab-Israeli War, it found itself surrounded by deep hostility from neighboring Arab states. As former Palmach commander Yigal Allon remarked, Israel had won the war but lost the peace. The 1950s marked a period of rising Arab nationalism. Many Arab countries, through revolutions or coups, established military regimes. Each new government sought popular support by prioritizing the elimination of Israel and the liberation of Palestine as a central political goal. Over time, with growing animosity from the Arab world, Israel faced severe strategic vulnerabilities. It was small, elongated, and lacked natural defensive barriers, making it easily vulnerable to being split in two. Except for the Negev Desert, all Israeli towns were within 30 kilometers of an Arab border. At its narrowest, the distance from the West Bank to the Mediterranean was less than 15 kilometers, leaving virtually no strategic depth. In terms of population and military strength, Israel was heavily outnumbered. The population ratio to neighboring Arab states was 140, and the standing army ratio was 1:8. This reality naturally heightened Israel's focus on security. Both the government and the public considered national security a matter of survival. Some extreme Zionist factions believed that the most effective way to deal with Arab hostility was through force, advocating a might makes right approach, a stance that, in turn, further fueled Arab antagonism. In the early 1950s, two key issues intensified the Arab-Israeli struggle: the status of Jerusalem and the Palestinian refugee problem. Promoted by David Ben-Gurion and others, Israel's Knesset passed a resolution on December 13, 1949, declaring Jerusalem the capital and deciding to relocate the government there. By early 1950, most government offices, except the Ministries of Defense and Foreign Affairs, had moved to Jerusalem. The United Nations General Assembly had just passed a resolution reaffirming the internationalization of Jerusalem. Israel's defiance sparked widespread outrage in the Arab world and condemnation from many countries, including the U.S. and Britain. However, no effective international action was taken. Encouraged by this, Jordan's King Abdullah formally annexed the West Bank and East Jerusalem in April 1950, renaming his state the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. This move drew condemnation from other Arab states, and in July 1951, Abdullah was assassinated in Jerusalem by an Arab nationalist. During the war, roughly 650,000 Arabs fled Palestine, becoming refugees in surrounding Arab countries. Under U.S. pressure, Israel initially indicated willingness to allow 100,000 refugees to return as part of a broader peace plan. However, strong domestic opposition viewed such a concession as a threat to national security, prompting Israel to retract the proposal. With the influx of Jewish immigrants, Arab homes and lands were occupied by newcomers, leading Israel to abandon plans for refugee return and instead propose economic compensation while resettling refugees in Arab countries. When Iraq and other Arab states expelled their Jewish populations in 1950 to 1951, Israel gained further justification for restricting Palestinian refugee returns. Consequently, the refugee issue became a focal point of the Arab-Israeli conflict. Although Arab states' propaganda repeatedly vowed Israel's destruction, internal political instability and economic challenges limited concrete actions. Yet the Arab League's economic blockade intensified Israel's difficulties, cutting off trade routes and forcing Israeli ships to circumvent Africa, increasing costs dramatically. Border clashes were another persistent threat. Despite the establishment of mixed armistice committees to monitor ceasefires, violations were frequent. The earliest conflicts occurred along the Israeli-Syrian border, triggered by Israeli drainage projects in the Hula Valley. By 1951, intense military clashes broke out. Along the Israeli-Jordanian border, frequent incursions by Palestinian militants led Israel to retaliate. In October 1953, following a series of cross-border attacks, an Israeli operation killed over 60 Jordanian civilians in the village of Kibbia, drawing international condemnation. From June 1949 to October 1954, Israel accused Jordan of violating the ceasefire 1,612 times, while Jordan accused Israel 1,348 times. Confirmed casualties were 124 Israelis and 256 Jordanians. From 1954, the focus of border clashes shifted to Egypt, especially along the Gaza front. Palestinian refugee camps became bases for raids into Israel. Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser supported these actions, particularly against settlements in the northern Negev, causing civilian casualties. Between 1949 and 1956, more than 1,300 Israelis were killed or injured in Arab attacks, two-thirds of them civilians, fueling public anger and enabling the return of hardline Ben-Gurion in February 1955. Israel launched several retaliatory operations, including deep strikes targeting Egyptian military headquarters, killing and wounding over 60 soldiers. Amid the Cold War, Israel aligned with the U.S., seeking support to ensure survival. It maintained traditional ties with Britain and expressed willingness to join the U.S. initiated Middle East Defense Organization, antagonizing the Soviet Union. Relations worsened further after the 1953 Doctors' Plot in the USSR and Soviet support for Arab nationalism, including arms transfers to Egypt. Following the 1952 Egyptian Revolution, Nasser accelerated the nationalization of the Suez Canal. Britain, economically and politically weakened, failed to prevent the move. On July 26, 1956, Nasser announced the canal's nationalization, prompting Britain and France to resort to military action. Israel joined the operation, coordinating a surprise attack on Egypt on October 29, 1956, the Suez Crisis, also known as the Second Arab-Israeli War or the Sinai Campaign. Israeli paratroopers landed 65 kilometers east of the Suez Canal, while 45,000 troops crossed into southern Sinai, capturing most of the peninsula. By October 30th, Britain and France issued a prearranged ultimatum for ceasefire and withdrawal, which Israel accepted, but Egypt refused. Subsequent Anglo-French bombing and amphibious landings targeted Alexandria, Cairo, and Suez ports. Israel occupied the Sinai, inflicting heavy losses on the Egyptian military. Egyptian forces suffered approximately 1,650 killed, 4,900 wounded, and over 6,000 captured or missing. Israeli casualties were comparatively light, 189 dead and 817 injured. Anglo-French losses were minimal. Politically, however, Egypt gained international sympathy and strengthened Arab nationalism, while Britain and France suffered major diplomatic setbacks. Although Israel withdrew from Sinai post-conflict under international pressure, it achieved key objectives: weakening Egypt's military, destroying Soviet-made weapons, and establishing a UN-monitored buffer zone that maintained a decade of relative stability along the border, ensuring domestic political and economic stability.